Police brutality, chaos and disorder marked the first night of the government-ordered dusk to dawn curfew, where journalists were also not spared. And we have all the updates of what transpired yesterday evening all the way to today morning. And other stories are making headlines from Mombasa to Bungoma to here in Nairobi. You're watching NTV at ONE. My name is Zainab Ismail. And ferry commuters have now maintained orderliness as the authorities continue to enforce the social distancing rule aboard the vessels. The police brutality meted on commuters and even journalists sparked an outrage that has now forced leaders to intervene in a bid to find a lasting solution for the commuters to beat the 7 p.m. curfew. And we have leaders from the Mombasa county also giving a press briefing right this moment. Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho is currently speaking. Let's listen in.
We also appreciate the challenges our people are facing. That is why some of us believe strongly at some point, when we are ready, we should call for a total shutdown in more vulnerable areas. But obviously that requires deeper consultation, deeper planning, over which is on the table and we are discussing. What brings us here today is, first of all, to say what happened yesterday was unnecessary and try to bring back order. So we are asking both the Mwananchi and the security agencies and ourselves to remember that we are under a health curfew, and therefore to be able to succeed in this important purpose is to observe those guidelines. So we have consulted this morning and we have agreed that from effective immediately, ferry services shall operate in this manner. Number one, the focus will be pedestrians, mwananchi wa kutembea na mguu for the time being. So magari will be restricted. Tunasema magari yataanza kuvukishwa kuanzia saa 5 asubuhi mpaka saa 8 mchana pekee, so that asubuhi paka saa 5 inavusha tu wananchi, na in demarcated areas or areas where we are marked for them to be able to stand for the time being. Magari yatavuka kuanzia saa 8 mpaka saa 9, and then we close vehicles movement on the ferry. Tubaki tu kuvukisha wananchi. Pili, I want to urge the employers in our region, they must understand also, in fact we shouldn't urge, we should tell them as government, they need to adhere to this. Kwamba sahihi tuko katika msururu wa mtihani mgumu. So wakubaliane na sisi kwamba even if your employee has to work over lunch, so be it. Lakini by 3 o'clock, watu watoke makazini, waanze kwenda majumbani ili to be able to meet the regulations that have been put in place for us to achieve this curfew. You all must remember, hili janga sio unique kwetu. Janga hili limeanza dunia mzima, na sisi tunaangalia matendo ya dunia ingine ama cities zingine katika dunia, ni gani yanafanyika vizuri ndio sisi tufanye, ili tuweze kuepuka to be in a situation where the doctors or the clinicians are forced to make a choice on who lives and who dies. So for the pedestrians, nataka niwaambie, please let us observe the guidelines tukati tumepewa. We are here to ensure that you are safe. We are here to ensure that you remain healthy, even though we also appreciate there are certain challenges that we have to deal with. Vile kwa polisi, we have discussed and even told them there is no point to use so much force. Lakini mwananchi naye afate. There is no point where a country is under a curfew on matters health that canisters, tear gas canisters have to be thrown. There's really no reason as to have a situation where Wainaina there was being wekwa drungu for no reason. Because these guys on the other side will help us to highlight the real issues on the ground. And I am sure my brother Rashid has taken note. He has instructed his people to be orderly, to be humane, to be respectful, to be able for us, because unajua hii ugonjwa hata mkishikana hivi sasa kutoke vurugu, mwingine katika mfurukano achemue akushike, na kama alikuwa nayo angekupatia tu. So for us, we are here to achieve those two important things today. We shall observe how operations will go on Monday, and then collectively we'll be able to make a decision. Even though, like I said, even you as a mwananchi, you need to start preparing yourself in your mind that at some point we may ask you to stay at your house and don't leave. And then also we are saying as a government, we are consulting, because we know that there are people who work on a daily basis for the daily wage. What are we going to be able to do for them? We are consulting. And I can tell you, we are making progress. So for the rest of us, let us be careful. Please observe the guidelines. Osha mkono wako. Kaa mbali 1 meter distance. You're not doing it for me. You're not doing it for me. You're doing it for yourself. That you must understand. You're doing it for your family. You're doing it for the people you love. You know? So please, when we tell you, observe these guidelines, it's for your own good. Even here, we've engaged, tumesema sisi wenyewe to observe the distancing, because it is necessary at this point in our times. So please, tukubaliane hapo. Allow me to introduce, first of all, Mishi, for a minute to say two things. And then also, we're saying, for fresh produce market, we've consulted. We decongested Kongowea. We brought some outlet in Tononoka. We're now moving to Likoni. So tafadhali, even the wholesalers, we tell you, if you don't want to listen, we shall force you. You bring your produce to Likoni. We will waive for you the charges that will make it easy for you to go across. But then you sell the produce in Likoni, so that we don't have people having to cross just to go to the market. So tukubaliane hapa, all the leaders were speaking in one voice. Civil society is here, Red Cross is here, Hussein Khalid and his team is here. We all are speaking in one voice, that we want to be able to stand together to defeat this pandemic and be counted as a people. When the time called on us to be together, we did it. Tumekubaliana, eh? So very brief remarks from Mishi, very brief. Oh wait, let me do this and then we'll give you the politicians to conclude.
All right, Mombasa leaders, they're led by Governor Ali Hassan Joho, of course, speaking about the chaos that happened and took place yesterday as the curfew order took effect at the Likoni ferry. We saw a lot of people falling down, others running, and of course the police brutality that was meted upon the residents of Mombasa County, together with other residents of the country as well. Well, Kenyans experienced a night curfew that was an experience like never before. However, life in town seems to have gone back to normal as the rush to beat the 7 p.m. curfew intensifies. NTV's Kennedy Mureithi is on the streets of Nairobi and is giving us a view of how Kenyans really are adjusting to this new way of life. Kennedy?
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Zainab, there in studio. And when we were in high school, there's a book we actually did called Dar es Salaam by Night. Right now, I'm here and we are here in Nairobi. And the picture that we were able to see yesterday after 7 o'clock and the picture that we are seeing in Nairobi at this particular hour is very different. And the activities seem to have gotten back to normal as everybody is trying to rush to get that extra coin before the curfew kicks in at around 7 o'clock this evening. What I'm able to see right now is that there's even this lady who we would want to speak to, who is a trader in vitu za nyumbani, sio? Na wewe mwenyewe naona ni kama unazibeba, ni kama unajaribu kukimbia kutoka kwa watu fulani. Ni nini ambayo unauza, na je, wakati kama huu unaweza kufaidika kwa vyovyote vile kwa vitu ambavyo unauza, na kuna pesa ambayo unaweza kwenda nayo nyumbani?
Kunayo. Mimi kwa majina yangu mimi naitwa Hana Wajiro Joraita. But mimi nausaga huku Mwarero. Na mimi nausa dimu, jija, na lime na beetroot. Hiyo ni kaa vitu ya kusuia hizi homa ama kunawa mikono. Hiyo Mwarero yenye nimebeba, hii ndio yenye nalida nayo watoto. Hii ndio nalida nayo watoto. Ndio kama mimi watoto ndio wanagojea mimi. Sawa.
Lakini sasa tangu jana, unajua kuna nyinyi ambao mnauza ikishafika saa moja sana. Sijui kama jana mliweza kufaidika watu wakienda nyumbani haraka haraka, kuna wengine ambao walipata kuchelewa hapa mjini. Nyinyi je, kuna vitu ambavyo mliweza kufaidika na kuna tofauti ipi kutoka jana na leo ambapo mnauza?
Jana tulikuwa tunauza kidogo kidogo, lakini leo hata hakuna customer. Alafu wakati tulimaliza jana tulikuwa tunatembea miguu mbali sana. Hatukukuwa na gari. Gari walikuwa wanalipisha bei kali sana.
So kwa hivyo leo uko tayari?
Leo niko tayari kutembea miguu by the way. Na vile tu ninatembea miguu sisi hata hatujauza hata saa hii. Kajo bado wanatuamsha, wanatuhangaisha huku.
Well, Zainab, those are just some of the sentiments we also want to get from another gentleman. Wewe unafanya kazi ipi hapa town na sijui kuna tofauti ipi ambayo umeona kutoka jana ambapo curfew iliingia na sasa hivi?
Okay, I work in the office of here in Nairobi. I work as a research in the office of KCC, but we left the job last week because of this issue. But also entrepreneurship in the issue of some enterprises in terms of detergents. So the observation I can make since yesterday, I think the curfew was a very good movement. It was a very good move, but the approach was not that which we need to adjust in terms of most workers in Nairobi, the employers are different. So they would have given a very earlier memo to those who embrace some young people so that they can able to be released from the job early, so they can able to avoid this kind of the crash. Also, the issue of this corona issue, we should look at the issue of even our officers. They should have that kind of the way they can able to defend themselves, because we are doing things whereby we are crowding them more, which might be able to put us in a challenge, which we need also to work on our way so they can able to deal with this kind of the monster as a country.
Well, Zainab, those are some of the sentiments that are coming from Kenyans who are here at the archives, and we can even see there are some measures that have been put forth by the government here at the Tom Mboya statue, and this is one of the initiatives that has been done by the Ministry of Water and Sanitation and Irrigation, where they have put up some taps here so that every Kenyan who passes by here is able to actually come and wash their hands at this particular point. So if my camera person Fidel will also be able to walk with me on this other side, there are Kenyans who are even traveling and others are going on with their duties as they try to also beat that particular deadline that has been put by the government. Yesterday night when we were touring these streets, there was so much that was happening, but only police officers were there, and also the fire brigade who were on their way just to make sure that they sanitize every part of this country, and they were saying every part of this town, as they were even trying to use chlorine. On the other side of town, that is the Tom Mboya Street, what is happening is that there is transportation that is going on as normal, and most Kenyans are actually doing their businesses so that they make sure that when it gets to that time, they are all home. Yesterday, there are those who are not able to even make home by 7 o'clock, but now it is sinking in that the police have actually even insisted that no extra minute is going to be added. Yesterday, there was a subtle extension of this curfew in Nairobi, as most people are being allowed to move or to go home as late as 10 o'clock. But today, the government is insisting that everybody must be home at 7 o'clock. But we'll be here in town to make sure that we capture every minute and everything that is happening. As NTV, we are in the streets as early as 3 o'clock in the morning just to see how businesses are being done and how police are doing up these businesses, and we'll make sure that everything is captured. Right now, I take you back to Zainab in studio.
All right, thanks, Kennedy Muredi there. Now, the first night and the curfew within the territory of Kenya ended a few hours ago. Health CS Mutahi Kagwe's admission of having a rocky start was evident, especially in major cities where people complained of police brutality. Leila Mohammed reports.
Images of Kenyans being whipped by police officers surfaced on social media pages as early as 7 p.m. Even some of the commuters who identified themselves as essential service providers were not spared. And while the public outcry followed the images, police service leadership had earlier in the evening stated that they would undertake their core duty within the confines of the law.
most of the challenges we are having right now, even on this matter, are related to us not being disciplined. We have to be disciplined. This is the time for us to be serious about the things we are doing.
But as the streets were being cleared of human and vehicular traffic, firefighters were out on the streets of Nairobi fighting a different fire, spraying disinfectants on the roads and streets as a measure to eliminate a virus not visible to the naked eye, but deadly nonetheless. In Embu, a motorist almost ran over the Embu County Commissioner Abdullahi Galgalo as he sped off to avoid arrest or whipping. Business remained shut as many residents watched from a distance in their estate gates. The county commissioner appealed to residents to observe the directive, adding that this would save many residents. In Naivasha, at the busy Maimahiu Naivasha road, not many of the truck drivers were still on the road, even after the 7 p.m. deadline to be indoors. But in Naivasha town, the lake town was a ghost town with only few movements witnessed. In Baringo, Ibrahim Abachila, the sub-county AP commander, demonstrated the rare aspect of humanity by talking to drivers who had arrived late on the importance of dusk to dawn curfew. He advised them to plan their time better. He also took the opportunity to sensitize them on danger of the COVID-19 before sanitizing them and allowing them to go home. In West Pokot, residents in Makutano Township, Kapenguria, started closing their businesses at 6 p.m. A snap survey showed that by 6:30 p.m., all shops had been closed. In Machakos, a few minutes to the curfew time, police cars patrolled different roads of the town with the sirens on to alert members of the public to vacate the town before 7 p.m. A few people who defied the order were arrested, and those who spoke to NTV urged the government to provide some necessities to the locals, claiming they work from hand to mouth and the curfew would leave them starving. Lodwar town was totally empty as the curfew came into effect. All shops, bars and other business premises were closed as early as 6 last evening, with only the chemist and some petrol stations that remained open, with very few people allowed to operate. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
A very unfortunate series of events yesterday evening, but of course we must also commend the Baringo Sub-County AP Corp who decided to choose a different route to address this issue. While a cross-section of MPs wanted the Inspector General of Police to take stern action against officers who brutalized residents of Mombasa and other parts of the country on the first night of the curfew. According to the MPs, should the situation become untenable, the President needs to declare a total lockdown to contain the spread of the virus.
What we saw is police brutality. We would just want to ask the President, the Commissioner of Police, the Ministry of Interior, that we cannot fight Corona and fight police brutality at the same time. At least we have to pick one war, and I would rather we fight Corona. What we saw, the police pulling guys out of their vehicles and mercilessly beating them. These guys are going to end up in hospitals. When they end up in hospitals, that is where we actually want to remove the traffic from.
31 cases is enough to lock down this country and provide food to each and every household that needs. Within 21 days, we'll have contained this virus and we go back to our business. But we cannot come here and lie that we are going outside during the day, mingling out, and going back, transmitting the disease to our household, to our families.
Violence-happy policemen should not take advantage of the medical situation we are having in this country to apply excessive force on peace-loving Kenyans. We have seen what happened in Nakuru, we have seen what happened in Nairobi here, and what happened in Mombasa, in Likoni area. It is a sad situation, and this cannot be allowed to continue.
Well, Well, no one knows curfew better than residents of Mandera County. When the whole country was trying to come to terms on the COVID-19 advised curfew, residents of Mandera had no drama with the police. The county was under a dusk to dawn curfew for almost a year in 2016 due to runaway insecurity. Our reporter in Mandera has more details. Ahmed?
Thank you, Zainab. We are joining the broadcast live from Mandera, as you said, yes. And curfew is not something new to Mandera residents here. Last night, people have complied voluntarily without the police coercing them and to force them to go home. Yes, you remember that back 2016, Mandera was in curfew for almost a year, and it was lifted just days before the general election in 2017. And since then, people have voluntarily adopted and self-imposed the curfew back since then. But when the counties of other countries of other part of the country are still trying to come to terms of the new curfew, residents of Mandera have nothing new, saying that they had a permanent and pensionable curfew, and since they have adopted it. But as early as 6:30, people went their homes, and all shops were closed. The streets were empty, and residents and the police and the security forces didn't have rough time, as we witnessed as the rest of the country. And it's sending a message that residents of Mandera used to curfew, and it's not something new. And there was no sort of drama like we witnessed in other parts of the country. Police were all over patrolling the streets, and the people have opted to stay in their homes, knowing the consequences that may have happened should they have defied the orders from the police. For the resident of Mandera, message is clear to other parts of the country: obey the law for your own safety. Zainab.
All right, Ahmed Maulid there from Mandera County, of course, with the details of what happened there and, of course, what is still transpiring in Mandera County. Well, police in Bungoma County have this morning raided 2 Catholic churches which were holding morning masses against the government directive on public gatherings in the wake of the highly contagious COVID-19 in the country. The raid followed a tip-off from the public that the 2 priests had continued to conduct morning masses every day between 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. days after the government banned all public gatherings and religious activities in order to contain the spread of the virus. At St. Paul's Catholic Church in Kandui, the priest who was leading the mass was summoned and cautioned by the police, while the mass at Christ the King Catholic Church, Bungoma Town, was ended hurriedly and the faithful dispersed before the police truck arrived. And we have Zacchaeus Mwasame, our reporter on the ground, who is also joining us live with more details. Zacchaeus?
Thank you, Zainab. We are now currently live from Kakamega here in Western Region. It's true that those priests were actually, found. Father Ogola was found dressing up by the police in the morning. He was preparing to lead over mass, and then he was questioned, but then he said that they have been meeting. He says that they have been meeting in low numbers, despite the fact that the government banned social gatherings. That has raised questions, and even the hearings of the church, the Catholic Church in Bungoma specifically, with respect to the directives by the government to curb the spread of COVID-19. And then Father Ogola of Christ the King, that is a church that is found in Bungoma Town. It's one of the churches that carries very many faithfuls in Bungoma Town, was also on the spot, and he has been on the run. The police say that they are looking for him. They have already summoned the 2 priests, including a number of nuns also. It is said that they have also been meeting with also faithfuls in making prayers there. But that has not been received well, even with the residents of Bungoma. But that notwithstanding also, Zainab, you remember that the curfew started yesterday here in Kakamega. We didn't realize, we didn't see any unusual happenings here. The police were on the streets, and the people here in Kakamega were in their homes as early as 6:30. Business were closed earlier on. But maybe if you allow me a minute just to talk to one of the residents here to give us a feeling of how the curfew has been received here on the ground. Gentlemen, what's your name and what do you take of the curfew?
My name is Collins Lumumba, President of Vijana. na hii curfew sisi Kakamega tumetii amri. Unapata kwamba curfew Kakamega kufikia saa 1 hakuna watu nje. Lakini leo hii nimekuwa nikizungumza na rafiki yangu Oscar Kakuko kule Mombasa, napata kwamba pale kwa feri curfew inaanza kufanywa mwendo wa saa 11, na ambapo tunajua rais alitangaza curfew inafanyika mwendo wa saa 1. Kwa hivyo inakuwa ni vigumu sana. Unajua it's very funny kwamba Kenyan government imediscover kwamba this virus ya corona inasambazwa usiku. Na mimi nashangaa kwa sababu wakati uko mchana town unachukua hiyo virus unapelekea bibi yako kule nyumbani. Ile kitu ningejaribu kuambia serikali yetu kwamba curfew peke yake haitaweza. Kitu ambacho kinafaa kifanyike ni kwamba waweke total lockdown. Sisi wote tukae kwa nyumba 24/7 for 21 days or 30 days or 40 days.
Thank you, gentlemen. In the interest of time, asante sana. Thank you for talking to us. Zainab, that's the feeling that that gentleman is saying that a total lockdown will help the country because he's worried that people gathering in town and going back to the houses in the evening could also be an aid of the virus, spreading of the virus. From Kakamega here in Western Region, my name is Zacchaeus Masame, and now back to you in studio.
Zacchaeus, let's now take a short break here on NTV at 1. We still have more we've lined up for you. Stay with us.
Rashes again? Kiss Kids diapers. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Bye-bye rashes. Buy diapers. Choose Kiss Kids.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. Panadol Extra, now with new Optizorb technology to fight multiple tough pains with 3 times more pain-relieving medicine in the first 30 minutes when you need it most. Seeing them support themselves makes any pain worth it. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Heaviness and a burning inside, it could be heartburn.
Kiungulia na kuvimbiwa? Ino inatibu ndani ya sekunde 6 na inatuliza dalili 6 za kiungulia. Kwa hivyo unaweza kuburudika bila kikomo. Ino, tibu haraka kiungulia na tumbo kuvimba.
Basic protective measures as guided by the World Health Organization. Clean hands frequently with soap and clean water. Cover nose and mouth when coughing and sneezing with a tissue or flexed elbow. Avoid close contact 1 meter or 3 feet with anyone with cold or flu-like symptoms. If you have fever, cough and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. Avoid raw or uncooked animal products. Help the world put an end to the spread of respiratory diseases by sharing this message with a friend. Message brought to you by Sour Herbal Family Bath Soap.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, as the curfew was enforced from 7 p.m. yesterday, police in Voi, Taita Taveta County, were tackling another crime, burglary. Some individuals took advantage of the deserted town streets to break into shops. Our reporter Bill Otieno has more.
Well, thank you very much, studio. And indeed, it's the second day after the curfew. And we are actually following up on the story about people who were trying to take advantage of situation. Yesterday, we did witness 2 incidents in Voi town, whereby 2 individuals were trying to break into shops so that they can steal products from those shops which owners had left us from 6 p.m. trying to obey orders of the curfew as directed by the president. And the police tried to chase the individuals who were trying to rob this or break into these shops, and this is what they had to say.
Tukiwa patrol town hii ya Voi, tuliweza kukutana na pikipiki ambayo ilikuwa imesimamishwa mahali karibu na maeneo ya biashara. Na wakati tulienda mahali hapo, kulikuwa na mtu ambaye alikuwa anajaribu kuiba, anajaribu kuvuruta dirisha na ndio akakimbia, na tuliweza kupata pikipiki ile ambayo alikuwa anatumia, na ndio hii hapa nyuma yetu, na pikipiki yenyewe tulileta kwa kituo cha polisi cha Voi. Tuko na watu ambao wanachukua hii nafasi kuweza kutenda maovu. Tunawatahadharisha kwamba tuko hapo, na yeyote ambaye atapatikana akiwa nje, akiwa na nia ya kuiba, tutamkamata na atafunguliwa mashtaka.
Being the second day, by 7 p.m. we are expecting to see everybody to have gone back to their houses and also the businesses to have been closed. And the police here are saying, as you've heard, that they are not expecting to see people walking around, and those who will be trying to take advantage of the curfew, they will be dealt with. Back to you, studio.
All right, thanks, Bill Otieno. And as the country steps the efforts to curb the spread of the coronavirus, the Kenya National Bureau of Standards is cracking the whip on unscrupulous persons who are taking advantage of the situation. On Friday, the Bureau raided and seized uncertified sanitizers products produced by Laser Chemicals at Saika Estate, Jirani Court along Kangundo Road in Nairobi. The raid was conducted by the KEBS Market Surveillance Team. According to KEBS, Laser Chemicals does not possess the Bureau's permit to produce sanitizers and has been using high levels of ethanol which do not meet the prescribed standards.
Yesterday, we picked a sample out of our market surveillance, and after the test, we have established that it does not meet the minimum threshold, that is the 60% ethanol requirement, to make it effective. And as you see, if you give the public false hope that this product is effective, they are going to be, rely on it. And
Right, and as a way of preventing coronavirus spread in the country, the Victor Wanyama Foundation donated hygiene kits and foodstuff to over 200 families in Mandera slums in Nairobi. Meanwhile, residents of Dagoretti South have been at the forefront of implementing the hand-washing campaign, even as the area Member of Parliament John Kiarie provided the necessary equipment needed.
The Victor Wanyama Foundation, in partnership with Kenya Red Cross, Africa Yoga Project and the Gina Dean Foundation, donated the basics to over 200 families. The exercise was briefly interrupted after the residents turned disorderly. Harambee Stars captain who plays for Montreal Impact in Canada has urged Kenyans to follow the set guidelines set in order to kick out the deadly virus in our country.
Tumekuja kushare hapa juu tunaona shida mingi inatoka hapa ghetto. For example, watu wengi wenye wanafanya kazi huku ni hao wa mjengo. Sasa venye imefungwa wanahangaika.
Residents of Dagoretti South were taken through a hand washing as the area MP John Kiarie donated tanks and water to tackle shortages. The equipment was installed at bus stops to ensure that all commuters wash their hands before boarding.
Tumekuwa wiki mbili hatuna maji, lakini tumepata, umetukumbuka. Asante sana, ubarikiwe. Na kama unataka tena kutuongeza, unaweza kutuongeza.
Sisi tumenufaika sana kwa matangi ya bwana MP wetu KJ, maana alituagiza kila stage lazima iwe na mtungi kwa kila stage. Na ni mzuri juu ametimiza ahadi, hakuna stage haina tangi ya kuogea mkono.
At the same time, two learning institutions, namely Lenana School and Kinyanjui Technical College, all in Dagoretti South, have been designated as quarantine centers. Even as police enforce the curfew, officers at the Embakasi police station received free tanks and sanitizers to the station.
I would like to take this opportunity to say thanks to the Kenyan police force and the health workers who are working effortlessly and tirelessly, day in, day out. We have been advised that if we are not feeling well, we should stay at home. Yet, they are the ones who are being told that you should go out there and take care of the citizens.
Tunaomba wananchi tafadhali
mfuate mfano kama wa Kings Royal vile wamefanya, msaidie maofficers wengine kwa hata police stations, tuweze kushirikiana.
Yoshua Makori, NTV.
All right, thank you, Joshua. When is the last time you read a book? Well, this is for those who do not read regularly. What really are you doing with the free time you have now that most activities revolve around your house? Well, the creative writers of Kenya want you to develop a new hobby, that of reading books and improving your knowledge. The chairman of the Creative Writers of Kenya, Professor Igara Kabaji, says reading books has also been proven to be relaxing. Take a look.
And therefore, it is a high time we now go back to that activity. And the Creative Writers Association is coming up with an inventory of all works of art written by Kenyan writers. And this will be very easy to access because we are going to make sure that we document all the works written by Kenyans and make sure that this inventory is accessible to all Kenyans.
All right, and globally, Italy on Friday recorded the most daily deaths of any country since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, and Spain had its deadliest day as British Prime Minister Boris Johnson became the first major world leader to test positive. Italy reported 969 new deaths, Spain 769, and France 299 as Europe reeled from a crisis that led the United States on Friday to finalize an unprecedented $2 trillion stimulus package.
Death toll has risen to over 27,000 globally, with the number of confirmed cases growing to more than 500,000. Italy showed a continuing downward trend in infection rates, and Spain said its rate appeared to be slowing, but other countries were bracing for the virus's full impact. Across Africa, the official numbers are still relatively low, with 83 deaths and over 3,200 confirmed cases on Friday, according to the African Union. South Africa recorded its first death from coronavirus on Friday as its infections tally breached the 1,000 mark just hours after a 3-week nationwide lockdown took effect. President Cyril Ramaphosa has ordered South Africa's 57 million people to stay at home for 21 days, joining countries across the globe in imposing strict measures to halt the spread of the disease. Public places like Egypt's pyramids of Giza were disinfected to reduce the risk of infection. Mali faces challenges on all fronts. It is battling to control jihadist conflict and reported its first case of COVID-19. A nighttime curfew is now in place. Indonesia's coronavirus crisis is far worse than is being officially reported, and the government's response is in tatters, the country's Doctors Association warned on Friday. This as the death toll climbed to 87. Muslim worshippers in the Indonesian city of Surabaya received disinfectant spray and face masks before entering a mosque for Friday prayers. 4 passengers have died aboard a cruise ship carrying scores of people with flu-like symptoms that have been stranded off the Pacific coast of South America for several days, the liner company said on Friday. The Zandam, with 1,800 passengers on board, is currently in Panama's territorial waters, having been prevented from docking in several countries due to coronavirus fears. In Brazil, President Jair Bolsonaro announced that his government would extend about $8 billion in low-interest loans to small businesses hit by the coronavirus pandemic. Rio de Janeiro famous Copacabana beach has been left empty after it was closed by authorities to halt the spread.
Well, the Chinese city of 11 million people that was ground zero for what became the global coronavirus pandemic partly reopened on Saturday after more than 2 months of almost total isolation. Wuhan was placed under lockdown in January, with residents forbidden to leave, roadblocks ring-fencing the city's outskirts, and drastic restrictions on daily life. But the major transport and industrial hub has now signaled the end of its long isolation, with state media showing the first officially sanctioned passenger train arriving back into the city just after midnight. People are now allowed to enter but not leave, and many trains had been fully booked days in advance. Staff at the Wuhan station were all clad in full protective gear, with the reception desks lined up, ready to process returnees who had been overseas. China is now battling to control a wave of imported cases as infections soar abroad. All arrivals in Wuhan have to show a green code on a mobile app to prove that they are healthy. More than 2,500 people are still hospitalized with the disease in Wuhan, including nearly 900 severe cases. Meanwhile, an eatery in Hanoi in Vietnam is trying to turn the coronavirus pandemic on its head using food. A pizza place is now serving coronavirus burgers to its customers.
At an eatery in Hanoi, Vietnam, a chef is busy preparing the latest addition to his menu. The ingredients are what you would use to make your ordinary burger. But for Chef Hoang Tung, the color and shape of the burger is what makes it stand out in this time of the global COVID-19 pandemic. He has fashioned his culinary offering to mimic the virus that is causing havoc across the globe, right down to the color and the spikes that reflect on the virus. He says he was inspired to create the unique burger when he saw the green alien character in Pixar's Toy Story, whose head antennas resembled the chemical structure of the novel coronavirus. But finessing the right shade proved to be a challenge, he says. His team experimented with different ingredients like matcha powder and pineapple leaf extract before settling on katuk leaves, a sweet herb commonly used in Vietnamese cuisine. Since the Corona Burger's launch on Monday, Tang's small eatery Pizza Home has seen an uptick in customers, selling about 50 of his creations a day. He's pleased with the burger's fast popularity, but Tang already has the approval of his most important customer, his son, who now says he does not feel afraid of the virus anymore. Like other Hanoi businesses, Pizza Home had already seen a drop in customers in recent weeks due to an uptick in the cases of the virus. The rate of infections had initially slowed down in February, but it jumped 2 weeks ago with the return of several Vietnamese. Vietnam officially announced Thursday all entertainment facilities, including beer houses and restaurants, must close on March 28th to stem the spread of the virus, although takeaway services are still allowed. The country has recorded 148 cases, and officials have moved quickly in the last few months to curb its spread. The virus has killed more than 21,000 people globally.
All right, well, in other stories making headlines in the sporting world, 2 former National Sevens rugby coaches have urged rugby players to utilize their careers prudently, advising them that it is short. The 2 coaches, Benjamin Ayimba and Paul Murunga, advised the players to use their skills outside the field to improve their lives.
Nadhani ni historia na ni desturi labda iliwekwa hapo awali, kwa sababu hapo kitambo kidogo ilikuwa kwanza raga ilikuwa inachezwa na shule za hali ya juu kiasi, shule kama Lenana, Nairobi, Alliance, Mangu. Ndani hapo ndio tofauti ilianzia, lakini saizi pia labda vitu zimebadilika, lakini bado naamini kuwa watu wengi ambao wanacheza raga pia na shule nyingi ambazo pia zimekuwa zikisaidia wachezaji kucheza raga pia ni shule ambazo zimekuwa zikifanya vyema pia kimasomo.
Nidhamu, ukitaka kuwa na nidhamu lazima uende skuli. Skuli unatarajiwa kuwa mtu ambaye una uzoefu fulani, kuamka mapema, kwenda darasani, kusikiza walimu, na nidhamu ni kitu kikubwa sana kwenye rugby. Kwa sababu tunatia manani sana kwenye watu kwenda skuli.
Inakuwaje kwamba mchezaji wa raga hawezi akaangazia raga peke yake, lazima kufanya kazi kwingine ndio anakuja kucheza?
Sababu maishani muda wa kucheza ni mfupi sana, na ukipata jeraha ndio hivyo. Sasa itabidi kuwa ukishamaliza kucheza kwako uwe na mahali pa kwenda. Masomo ni mazuri kwa sababu hata pale mkufunzi anavyoanza kupata anavyokupa instructions, anataka kama apate mchezaji ambaye yuko sharp, sio yule kila mara ni kumstua ndio aweze kusikiza maneno vile anaelezwa na vitu kama hivyo.
Raga inalipa, kama unaweza kaitegemea kama wewe hujasoma.
Raga kwa sasa hailipi kiwango hicho. Ukiwa timu ya taifa maybe, lakini pale vilabuni haiwezi.
Well, footballer Tony Davale has put his football boots to one side and slipped into a pharmacist's white coat in the frontline struggle against coronavirus in Spain. The 29-year-old pharmacy graduate and former top-level sportsman had been playing football for a Thai club but was visiting his family in Spain when the COVID-19 pandemic took hold. Travel restrictions trapped Davale in his native La Coruna in the Atlantic coast region of Galicia, where he started his football career with the nearby Celta Vigo. Although Davale also completed his university studies in pharmacy 4 years ago, he had never actually worked in the field. And now, with the world of sport in limbo, the footballer realized the time was ripe to use his studies to help his homeland. And Atletico Madrid became the latest La Liga club to request labor authorities to allow them to cut player and staff salaries while football is suspended in Spain due to the coronavirus pandemic. In a statement, club CEO Miguel Angel Gil said that they were obliged to propose a partial unemployment plan for the employees who, due to the state of emergency in the country, could no longer carry their work. Atleti are among a raft of clubs set to take a huge financial hit due to the indefinite suspension of football in Spain. All right, and that's all we had lined up for you this hour. Many thanks for keeping us company. More news later on in our subsequent bulletins. My name is Zainab Ismail. Do stay safe.